at the outset that Stefan Kipfer is a professor at York University and he focuses on issues of urban policy. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Israt Ahmed. She's a community planner with the Social Planning Toronto, Progressive Research and Resource Center tackling issues of poverty, homelessness, and transit. Take it away.
5 minutes. I can go home early. Thank you for having me. But I just wanted to give you a very quick snapshot of what we have been doing and what are the struggles that we have had since we have a new leader at City Hall in 2010. And the first and foremost was the cuts to community programs and services. But I have to tell you that as a nonprofit community-based organizations, we are not supposed to do political work. So we had to come up with something that is creative. At the same time, we had taken a kind of public education approach and created tools that would advance community investment. And we work with many people in this room. Actually, David Keat is here. And we, in 2010, we fought core services review. And we were able to kind of, dismantle that attempt of, identifying core services. And the result, we all know that KPMG actually said all the services the city provides are essential. So we were able to kind of address all this, work with people and say, hey, all the services the city provides are important. So from that time onward, we introduced this campaign called Commitment to Community. And we have a core group of community volunteers, who a lot of them are labor activists, from community-based organizations, community boards and agencies. We all fight cuts to community programs during city budget process. So last 2 days I've been really busy at City Hall, and you can imagine the drama that we have to kind of endure. So I think that's the that's the downside to the kind of work that we do, that you have to really tolerate all those impossible politicians. But what we have done through Commitment to Community, we created, we also do research. We analyze, what are the impacts of cuts, and that way we make a case for, investment and what are the return on investment. So 2010 was difficult. 2011 it got a bit better because a lot of counselors were, coming to terms with the fact that actually these programs provide social safety net for a lot of people who are marginalized, who really need it, and this year was actually better because this is an election year. Guess what? They have been actually doing their own research, and they came up with some of the ways to support community-based programs. So the drama continues, but we were able to create some tools that you guys can use in the next election. For example, we have created counselor profiles. What we have done, these are all public information. We just put them together and identified 10 social issues, and we identified their voting record in last year. So a lot of people have been actually taking those to their counselors saying, hey counselor, why didn't you support breakfast program? Oh, I did. No, your voting record actually shows differently. So and counselors know that they have been watched, and so they are very proactive, in the election year, and they even invited us to, talk at their budget town halls. So I think things are moving along, and we came a long way. The reason why I wanted to share these stories with you, change is possible. Sometimes it's slow, it's hard, but who said, it's easy? It never is easy. So that's the organizational, yes? Time is up? Okay. But we are also part of a local. What we're trying to do, we are also trying to be there for others, especially in this election year. So a lot of us will be adopting a word and help out in words where we think we have a chance for a kind of new progressive candidate. So that's what we're doing as a local and individuals. But as an organization, we still think we can do voter education, but we are not able to do kind of analysis on party or candidates platform. We have done as best as we could with the counselor profile. So please go visit our website, commitmenttocommunity.org, and find out what is the profile of your counselor, he or she, whether supportive of community programs and or the cause that you support. So I'll leave it there, but I'll be happy to talk if you have any question later.
Our next speaker is Mike Laxer. He's one of the founders of the Socialist Party of Ontario, and he's running for City Councillor in Etobicoke.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, it's my second run. I ran previously in 2010, although we're actually, hopefully, much better organized to do it this time. I mean, the strategy that I'm planning to adopt over the next 10 months to combat the austerity agenda is to sort of directly do just that by actually running. And I think that municipal politics affords us a way to do it, a unique opportunity to do it in many cases that is not available at other levels of government, in part because of the alleged lack of partisanship, but also in part because it's very easy to get into a race, it's relatively inexpensive, and you have a very long period of time during which you can advocate for a socialist or an anti-austerity or an anti-capitalist agenda, much longer than a provincial or federal campaign. Municipally, you can do it as of January 3rd, which is when I started, when I actually registered, and I got the website up and we're already putting the pamphlets out. And we are running, as Sawant did in Seattle, an explicitly, avowedly socialist campaign that also connects to policies that directly impact people, including things like the GTWA's platform around free transit and how we can build as a community and as a city towards free transit. Another aspect of this is that we want to work on ideas that we believe are broadly popular and that also can work into a populist, so-called populist agenda. I mean, I have problems with that word, but, such as police accountability, such as fighting around issues of housing, such as fighting around, like I said, transit already, but democratizing City Hall. I mean, often things, when they talk about democratizing City Hall, these are code words for reactionary ideas. But there are some very progressive ideas you can bring in, such as term limits, or changing the ability of people to donate to themselves. I don't think it's broadly understood that if you wanted to, if you're wealthy enough, you could donate the entire amount to your campaign. You could donate $38,000 to yourself and just run the full limit. These are things that can be changed, that are wrong, and that you can campaign against, and that do resonate with people in a very direct way. So that's the strategy, and that's what we plan to do. And as a final note, obviously, we also plan, and I'm glad that this was brought up in the presentation, to run against the Ford agenda, not Ford. To run against the austerity agenda, not Ford. Ford is pathetic. Ford is a terrible distraction, and Ford is obviously not a very good person. But what's far more important than that is that his agenda is aggressively and appallingly reactionary, but that the agendas of many other city councillors are not actually all that different. They just aren't buffoons who get drunk in public and urinate in front of parks. So the reality is we have to get past Ford and move on to what is Ford's agenda, to combating that agenda, and to making citizens aware and residents aware that it's not Ford that's the problem, it's the agenda behind Ford and the agenda of austerity that's undermining the city. And that's our strategy. And if you have a chance, the website is electmichaellaxer@blogspot.ca. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And also a model of concision. Only 4 minutes there.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Our next speaker is David Kidd. He's a longtime left activist who is also a chief steward at Local 79, although he's here speaking as an individual, and he's also a member of the GTWA. Go ahead, David.
Thank you. So I'm just going to stand. You just sit with me.
All right.
So I'm just going to start quickly to say that Ford still has significant support in the working class as well as among union members. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. The real issue, and again, as previous speakers have said, it's more around his policies. And that's the real issue. It ain't the soap opera that is continuing on at City Hall. It is the platform of Ford. And there is still significant support in current council. And to give you examples, one of the big issues for the union movement, and in the last number of years, was the contracting of solid waste, garbage pickup in the West End. There is a concern that it would be difficult to block it going to the East End with the current makeup of council. There also is other big support on council for the continual cutting of social programs, not dealing with taxes. Taxes is like a four-letter word in council. Union workers were the problem. One of the divides in the working class is that there are politicians who portray union workers as the enemy and as the gravy train. And again, it has effectively done a split in the working class at times. And also there's a continued pressure for the sale of public assets. Now, my union and other unions will be campaigning for progressive politicians, including Olivia Chow. But I gotta be very clear. We're very sober this time after the experience of being almost the lead campaigner for the election of David Miller. So people are not campaigning for people expecting that we're going to get what we want, but at least we do know that to counter these policies, we need to elect progressive politicians. But what is really required, we are not going to be able to stop Ford policies, and a bit is what Stefan and others have said today, without creating a new platform of what we need to do in this city. Because again, unless we're actually fighting programmatic ideas, I don't see it, and no disrespect to any candidates running here, but in terms of the current makeup, I don't see them delivering it, and it's time that the left and other popular forces of the working class start to develop it. And what is needed is the expansion of public services in these hard times. Our community is going through hard times. We have huge unemployment, particularly in young people, particularly in racialized communities, particularly, the income levels of women, and again, in the working class. And unless we're, there's public services need to be expanded, and we also have to fight for the floor. I mean, there's often the conversation that the minimum wage, CPP, all these items are only issues at a different jurisdiction. They are issues that are affecting our communities, and we need to campaign on them. In terms of union workers, we have, the library workers took a great lead to show that the connection to fighting for a decent contract was also to connect to the services. But we also have to stand and say that workers deserve decent compensation. They deserve respected work. We have gone back to the 40s in terms of the abuse at workers. And again, that's a common campaign, whether you're union or in the non-union private sector. And so respected work is also a big campaign that needs to be done. Also, what's happening in terms of the public sector that other public sectors can relate to is we either call it gapping or working short. One of the ways the city has been saving money every year is basically if someone goes off on leave or retires, they're not replaced. So we have people collapsing on the job, basically just doing their normal job. Just two more comments, I'm trying to keep within the time. We have to talk about taxes. You can't talk about any of these issues without talking where the revenue comes from. And not only do we have to go back to an equitable distribution of income tax, because again, that conversation has fallen off the whole, any conversation. But also other issues that other jurisdictions are looking at, like a luxury tax. I'm amazed at how many of my brothers and sisters oftentimes are scared of some of these initiatives because they're worried about scaring away certain businesses and certain jobs from our city. The banks ain't going anywhere. The big media corporations ain't going anywhere. The telecom giants are not going anywhere. They're making millions of dollars. And again, we need to put in policies and raise revenue for all of these things we're talking about through a fair taxation policy. The last thing I want to say is I was lucky enough recently to be in South Africa. And I was there at a time after Madiba's passing, and among a time where there is a lot of distrust of the ANC and its current policies. What people in South Africa are talking about at this point in time is going back and looking at the demands of the Freedom Charter. The Freedom Charter was a massive campaign by the ANC, by the SACP and their allies during the time when apartheid ruled and during the time when the communities were very split and divided, and they literally were fighting a civil war, a race war. Why, due to the mistrust of the ANC policies, people are looking in South Africa as a way to move forward, is to look at programmatic means to help start to establish a future. And going back to at least the minimum of what the Freedom Charter provided for. We need to do the same thing. What I've talked about tonight isn't a socialist platform, isn't necessarily what we would all want if that's where your politics are. But we are not going to stop for politics. We are not going to stop neoliberal politics unless we start to build a platform that stands for the working class in this city. Thank you very much.